My granddaughters like American Ninja Warrior. In fact, my 7-year-old granddaughter convinced her father to make floating steps to practice with. But there is more to Ninja Warrior training than floating steps. So she asked me to make some handballs, pistons, and grips. Granddaughters rule, so off I go to my lathe to turn some cedar into an assortment of grips for hand and upper body strength training. I'll be making 4 balls, 2 pistons, and 2 truncated cones. The balls do not have to be perfect spheres, but I want them reasonably close. For a perfect sphere, see my other videos. I've turned perfect spheres before, but that is overkill for these. After all, ninjas have to adapt to whatever they run into. Fortunately, I learned a new tip from Giulio Marcolongo at the Utah Woodturning Symposium. It consists of a hole in a small disc. When held against a sphere, any gap indicates an area for smoothing. I've mounted some vinyl flooring to a faceplate with double-stick tape. With a gouge, I'm cutting a hole, then cutting the perimeter.
One, two, three. Good job. Okay, now take this hand and put it on that one. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. One, two, three.
After rough turning down to a cylinder between centers, I'm cutting dovetail tenons on both ends before mounting the cylinder in a 4-jaw chuck. My cylinder was too long to work safely with, so I'm parting it in half, making sure I push back the tailstock before cutting through the wood. I do not want a nasty bind. Then I'm marking off the first ball's length and midpoint. I'm aiming for a 2.5 inch in diameter. I'm marking the length with partial parting cuts. As a guide, I'm forming an octagon before rounding over the sphere. My gauge indicates high spots on the surface. To remove with shear scrapes or with my skew as a scraper. To hang the ball, I'm drilling a 5/16 inch hole for the lag thread screw eye, but only 1/4 inch deep. Then switching to a 3/16 inch bit to drill to full depth. I sanded these balls only with 80 grit paper with beeswax and mineral oil. The sandpaper evens out the major ridges. I do not want a polished surface. After parting off the ball, I touched up the end just a little bit. Then off to make 3 more balls the very same way. Next, I'll turn 2 pistons about 8 inches long and 2 inches in diameter out of cedar. These are a bit advanced for her.
Okay, let's see if I can.
After roughing the cedar down, I cut a mounting tenon and switch to a chuck mount. Then continue to rough it with a gouge close to 2 inches before switching to a skew for smoothing and final sizing. Then drill the 5/16 and 3/16 mounting hole. Then round off the upper edge before parting off the piston. Since the piston is near chuck size, I'm wrapping the end with tape Next, I'll cut 2 tapered grips. These are truncated cones. They are easier for her than the pistons, but harder than the balls. Still, a good item for her to train with. The process is much the same as the pistons. Rough the wood and cut a tenon before remounting to the chuck. Then cut off the excess. I'm drilling the lag screw hole now. The order does not matter much. Then cut the ends to nearly the maximum and minimum diameter before smoothing a taper between them with a skew. I'm doing what I can to clean up the bottom end before parting off the tapered grip. What do you like about American Ninja Warrior?
It's fun.
Why do you like practicing for American Ninja Warrior?
Honestly, I like doing it better than watching it.
How do you like to practice?
Good.
No, like what things do you like to do to practice?
I like doing the flying steps in the hang, I think.
Okay.
Do you want to be on the show someday on TV?
Yeah.
And how old are you?
7.
How do you like the power balls that Grandpa made?
Good.
What do you like about them?
They're easy to grip.
Well, that's my endorsement from a 7-year-old. That's all for American Ninja Warrior training gear. We'll see you again next week for another wood turning video. Please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and tell your friends. Always wear your full face shield. Goggles are not enough protection. Until next week, this is Alan Stratton from As Wood Turns. Let's keep turning.